Okay, so we want to encourage all of you, before we get into the details of like how to actually search and what online platforms to use, we want to encourage you to think about your social networks, and your networks on campus, your academic networks, your mission scholars network, who you can really lean on and leverage to your advantage. First, show of hands, raise your hand, your real hand or your emoji hand, if you have been to your career center on campus at Berkeley or Davis or any of these schools. Has anyone visited their like the career center? Okay, I see a few hands up. Okay, and for those who raised their hands, what did you find there, or why did you go?
I went to check out a club. They were there. And they also kind of helped with some resume tips as well. And they also had like a lot of brochures, like giving resume templates and stuff like that.
Awesome. And did it cost any money?
No, it was free.
Yes, so that is a huge point for all of you. There's these great resources on campus for free for students like yourselves, just sitting there. So definitely make sure you go to your career center or job center on campus. And oftentimes they have like career coaches, they have lists of local internships or different tips and tricks for resumes and cover letters. And maybe they even host their own set of workshops. But definitely a good resource we want to encourage you to use. And the power of just online research, you all are whizzes at Google and searching things. So if if you think about like your field and what kind of companies you want, and just see what starts sparking interest and looking at some of those jobs and, pursuing your, like, what lights you up and what gets you excited thinking about a summer internship. And then reaching out to people that you find in different companies, which we'll talk about. So all of you on the call are either college freshmen or sophomores. So for our sophomores on the call, I think the vast majority were in Santa Barbara this last summer and had local internships or local jobs with different volunteer opportunities. So think local internships if you are going to be in Santa Barbara. I'm going to be sending out a survey soon to gauge what you're thinking for next summer internship so that we know how to best support you. And if you start now, your chances are better for securing a summer internship in your field, whether that's nursing or computer science or marketing or engineering, and gaining really valuable skills that you can use for future internships and jobs. And we put here the last bullet point, it's all about transferable experience, transferable skills. So just like how we're getting you to tap into owning your story and finding your voice and finding value in your own unique life experience, same thing with your, like the story, the narrative you tell around what experiences you have had. Maybe you haven't had an internship yet, but you've had a job where you learned how to input data or high quality customer service that you can then use and talk about in interviews for a future internship. So that should be the focus for this coming summer. Okay, so this is what Estefania put together. I like the way she described this. There's a few different strategies for looking for internships. You can go from A to Z, from beginning to end, or start with the end goal in mind. And some of you might resonate with these strategies differently, but many of you might be here, you know your general interest, but not sure about the specific opportunity. And that's where we can help you. So questions to ask yourself, like, what type of work do you see yourself doing? What do you want to try to know that you don't like it, so that you don't fall into like, oh, I don't know if I would like that. I was too afraid to try. Now's the time to experiment and explore with that. And then what do you want to try because you are just innately interested in it and it gets you really excited? So kind of a launching point to start asking yourself these questions. And then on the right-hand side, starting with the end goal in mind. So some of you are already here. Where would you want to work? What organizations have you heard of that you're interested in? Find them, research them, look who works there through LinkedIn, through website searches, and then start reaching out. Starting, to send emails to people along the lines of like, I would love to learn from you. I'm really looking to gain experience in the marketing field. basically showing how motivated you are and enthusiastic and that you're willing to do anything to get that kind of experience. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Colleen Baker, who works at Procore. Many of you have met her before on a previous lit workshop, but this is her expertise, and she's going to share some strategies with you, just basics for online search platforms. So I will let you take it away.
Hey everyone. First, maybe if you put up your icons as well too, of who's familiar with Handshake? Has anyone heard of that one before? Try to go through.
I've heard of it.
Okay. So in terms of the different like job search platforms for internships, this is going to be your number one resource. For instance, for Procore, this is the one resource we're going to use to post our jobs. It's basically a LinkedIn for college campuses that connects you with open positions and mostly internships. So if you need a place to start, I feel like this is a great one to search for opportunities. And also, if you put in your interests, it'll serve you up matches for you as well. Similar to LinkedIn, you need to complete your profile and recommend to fully complete it so it looks really polished and done. Remember to express your interest for best matches. It's an app, so you can actually send out outreaches to recruiters or people that you might know through Handshake as well. And there's also opportunities if you go on their website to find virtual career fairs as well too. I put links in these if we're going to send out this deck afterwards, or we can follow up with some of the resources out there. One of the things when you are going through applying to opportunities, because there's a lot out there and there's a lot of students applying through at this time too, is to make sure to apply to a lot of opportunities that you're interested in and not just one or two, and really kind of spread out. Again, I think Katie touched on this, in terms of for summer internships, a lot of the companies are starting now. So if you are looking for some of the bigger companies or some of the more well-known companies that you've heard of, or really anything, I would, once you all wrap up your midterms, I know you're all in that as well too, I would start getting on this and looking at this as well, because the hiring season is now too. Other job search platforms, I know we've talked a lot about LinkedIn. I feel like that's going to be your second best place to leverage looking for opportunities. When you do, make sure that you do have your LinkedIn profile fully set up. And when you go through search, you can actually use the advanced search settings, and you can just search internship. You can also go through and look at when these jobs were posted. So you can make sure that the postings are up to date and not outdated postings that they may have already, if it's been posted for over a month, it's probably outdated and just hasn't been taken down yet. So I would look for opportunities that were posted in the last 2 or 3 weeks, just to make sure that you're staying up to date on the jobs that you're searching for. You can also set up email alerts for roles or really anything that you're interested in as well too. So say internship and software engineering, you can set up an email alert for that and for specific companies as well too, to see when they come up. You can do the same for Glassdoor as well too. Some other search platforms to take a look at can be ZipRecruiter, or Idealist is actually a great one for the nonprofit sector if people have an area of interest in that as well too. I know Katie kind of talked about it a little bit, but one of the best things that you can do through LinkedIn is really network within the platform as well too. I feel like you all probably had a few sessions about this, or maybe met with Monica one-on-one about LinkedIn. But once you do apply to an opportunity, maybe search through if there's an alumni that works at that company, or search for the recruiter who works at that company and send an outreach message. I know Paige is going to go over that as well. It just gives you a leg up to kind of get yourself out there, and to show that you're more interested than maybe just applying to the role as well. So I think networking, doing the follow-ups once you apply is a great strategy. No, we kind of just gave a high-level overview. Does anyone have any questions about these pieces? Again, I would start with Handshake because that's going to be, it's specifically built out, designed for internships, and then go to LinkedIn after that, and then kind of work your way through Glassdoor and ZipRecruiter as other options to search for internships.
Anyone have questions? No? Okay, well, we'll open it up at the end too.
Cool.
Thank you, Colleen, that's really helpful. Okay, so here's just kind of to give you an idea of where these connections come from and who you can lean on and different networks that you can pull from in order to help you with internships. Career Center, as we mentioned, professors. I know we've pushed a lot of you to attend professor office hours, and sometimes that leads to research opportunities or internship opportunities in the summers, or not being afraid to even ask your professors if that's something that they have available. Your college coach, all of you have a Mission Scholars College coach, and part of their job is to support you professionally as well, and really help you secure a summer internship. So asking, sharing with your college coach, keeping them updated with what you're thinking for the summer. Maybe they have different connections that they can draw from locally in Santa Barbara. So something to think about. Clubs as well. Oftentimes each other, your peers, are a really good source of information. Maybe someone's heard of an internship that's not right up their alley, but they'll share it with you. LinkedIn, as we mentioned, different organizations, affiliations that you're involved in on campus, college alumni. Like if you're at a school searching for, on LinkedIn, searching for other alumni from your school who work at the company you want to work for, that could be a great, easy outreach email to send. And then your peers. I would love to see our group me chat for students to share internship opportunities that you find, even if it's not something that you're interested in, but just post a screenshot on our group me, and that's a great way to share those opportunities as well. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Paige, who I believe many of you have also met on a previous lit workshop, but Paige is going to share more about what these outreach emails look like and how to do that. So Paige, I will let you take it away from here.
Hey, everybody. I tried to keep the slides detailed so you can refer back to them later. And I want to start with an example that Katie mentioned, actually. So my husband, he got his basically whole career through one of these emails. So he was a student at USC, like some of you are, fight on, and he had a research scholarship. And so he needed to find somebody to do research. And he heard about a professor that was doing research in audio space. And he was like, well, I like music and it's electrical engineering. So he sent an email to him, and he ended up getting a research scholarship with him, which led to a summer internship at a company in LA. And then when that professor moved to Apple, he took Chris with him as his intern. And now Chris manages a team of 9 engineers at Apple. So I know this seems like, oh, what's the point of sending an email? But speaking from personal experience in my family, these emails really can lead to awesome things. And sometimes you won't get a response. So I think knowing that too, sometimes it'll be, something as awesome as what happened for Chris. And then sometimes it might just be like, well, I went on a limb and gave it a try. But going into that, it is really helpful to have a draft ready to go so you don't have to start from scratch every time. And you can reach out to people, whether it's about internships or informational interviews. This can be applied to both. Say there's something you're interested in. This is a really good strategy for reaching out. Say you don't hear back from them on LinkedIn or on Handshake. You can also use it for a follow-up. And rather than starting from scratch every time, you just save a draft in your email. And then highlight the sections that are different each time. You don't want to say, hey, Apple, or I'm interested in Apple when you're sending a message to, Procore. That would be a little bit awkward. So making sure you edit each time, but you don't have to start from scratch the same way you don't build a whole new resume every time. The other really important thing is I'm going to give you some tips, but then you definitely want to customize it and make it your own so that it sounds like you, and add anything that you think is interesting. So if we go to the next slide, this is a basic structure. And then on the following slide, I actually wrote one out. So I'll copy and paste that into the chat, and then we'll email it to you so you can make it your own. But the first thing you want to do is introduce yourself, say what your name is, where you go to school, what your major is, where you're from, especially if it's a job in Santa Barbara that you're from here or living here for the summer. And then say like what company or position or person you're interested in learning about or applying to. And then these two sections can be really brief. They don't have to be long, but what I also recommend is saying why you're interested in that company. And then also quickly why you think it would be a good fit, why you would be a good fit there. So this is where you're doing kind of the same stuff you've done in college applications, but whether you call it bragging or talking about yourself in a positive way, really, which is important, you all have learned how to do. This is a really good opportunity to throw something in there about why you think this would be a good fit. And then thanking them for their time and that you're eager to hear back from them, just knowing that this isn't just, a random thing that you did on a whim, but this is something that you're really interested in. Even if you are sending 10, you want to make this person feel like, this is the one that you're the most interested in. So if we go to the next slide, I'll just quickly read through an example. And then if you guys have any questions, let me know. I know this text is like crazy small, but I wanted to get the whole email on the slide so you can refer to it later. But an example would be like, let's say that I'm reaching out to Colleen, and that Colleen works at Apple. So, hi, Colleen, my name is Paige Brenner, and I'm interested in your company, Apple. I'd love to talk to you about setting up an informational interview or talk to you about any potential open roles that you have on this summer. And another pro tip, sorry, I'm going to cut away from the email. Say you found the role. That's another great. Say like you go on LinkedIn or you go on Handshake and you see, oh, this is that role. Mention which it is in that email, especially if it's a recruiter or somebody working there. So you can say, you've already done your homework. Then this next sentence or paragraph is just a little bit about who you are. So what year are you? Where do you go to school? What's your hometown? Just like we talked about, this is the template for that. And then explain what you're interested in. So what are you trying to find a job in? So for instance, my previous background would be that you're looking to pursue corporate finance, for example, or engineering in a different one, or being a veterinarian, or whatever type of field you're interested in. And then the next paragraph is what we talked about. Show what you know about them and why you think it's an interesting company. This can be really quick. It only has to be maybe a sentence or two. You're not writing a full cover letter. It's just a quick email, but also something that's interesting that shows that you looked into it. Maybe it's like, for Apple, I really thought the launch of this last product was interesting, or I talked to somebody who was in this program there and that was cool. But why do you think that this company is a great fit for you, and why are you interested in it? And then the last paragraph is, again, what we talked about. Why would you be a strong candidate? So for instance, you're passionate about the product that the company has, and also here's the experience that I've had that relates to this job. And then finally, thank them. So hopefully that's clear. It's just a quick example of how to send an email, and just also, it doesn't have to be too complicated. You don't have to include all these things, but I think this template kind of makes it easy, but also stands out compared to just like, hey, can I talk to you? So if anyone has any questions, let me know now or at the end.
This is so helpful. It gives you just a starting point, right? It makes it a little less intimidating. So I would encourage all of you to send at least one of these email or LinkedIn messages. And then it gets less scary the more you do it. Thanks so much, Paige. Okay. So we'll allow, if any of you think of questions between now and the end, we'll allow for questions at the end. But we are going to transition now to talk about interview skills. Now that you know how to search for internships and you'll be doing that phase, just as important is representing yourself well in an interview. So we are really lucky to have Erica on the call. Many of you are familiar with Partners in Education, which is an organization in Santa Barbara that helps high school students with an internship program. I actually think we have a few mission scholars who have gone through the Partners in Ed internship program. And Erica has interviewed many students, and she has hired interns, and she has a lot of experience in terms of interviewing and what employers are looking for. So she's here to kind of share some of her experience and expertise with you all. So definitely take notes on this, because this will be really valuable to you in your internship search.
Thank you so much, Katie, for having me here, and thank you, everyone. I am excited to share more about some of the skills we kind of have learned from interns as they go through our programming. So not only do we help high school students place them in internships, we're also taking interns in our office. So college interns, and we are currently hiring, and we hire year round. So I have definitely hired more than 70 students now, and are still in the progress of getting more students in. And I have some slides I would like to share if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Katie.
Let me
Okay.
make sure.
Okay,
There you go.
okay. So let me just quickly. So I wanted to kind of go off of what you had all shared earlier about internship placements and looking for an internship. I think Handshake is definitely a place that we also use to put our postings, and we got a lot of students through there. So it is definitely a place you want to look at. So look at your school portal for any opportunities, and then also for connections. If you made a connection with somebody you know in the community where you want to work, ask them if there's any opportunities for you. Ask them if there are any internships that you could do at their business. And then also start thinking about businesses that you want to intern. So if there's a specific place, look at their website and see if there's already a program that's happening. That's kind of what I did when I was in college. Looked at businesses that I wanted to intern at, and just did a little bit of research, and then looked at my connections and asked, do you know anybody at this organization, just to make that connection and feel less intimidated as going by yourself. You know you have someone who can vouch for you, or someone who might be able to say, you know, this person is great, they could be great at this. So that's something I would recommend. And then when you come to an interview, make sure that you are presenting your best self. I know it's very nerve-wracking because you're coming in and they're kind of like looking at what you have to bring, but you want to share, you want to be authentic. You don't want to sound like a robot if you did a lot of practicing. You just want to sound very natural, and for them to really know who you are. And then leaving a lasting impression. So being memorable. So sharing something that could be helpful for them to decide between another candidate and yourself. And then also you are there to interview them too. So learn everything you can about the job opportunity and ask questions. So at the end, they will probably ask you, what questions do you have for me? Be prepared, come prepared with questions. If you really want to be at this organization, make sure that you look at their website before the interview and take notes. So when you're doing the interview, you can say, so what is your company culture, if that's something that's important to you. So just also remember that they're not just interviewing you, you are also interviewing them, and you're also deciding if you want to work for them. And make sure that you are prepared before the interview. It is key. You don't want to sound like a robot, like everything you have prepped, but make sure that you are there, that you look at where you're going for your application, for your interview. If you're there in person, you want to make sure that you look at the address. So plan for your arrival. If you're taking the bus, make sure that you take the early bus so you're not there late. I've had a lot of interviews where people show up late and I don't get a call. And so I'm waiting for 15 minutes and I don't hear anything until 30 minutes later. And so just making sure that if you are having anything came up, you're communicating and you're telling the person interviewing you that, that you had this something come up and that you would be late, because you don't want to waste their time. And if you waste their time, they might not want to interview you. So just make sure that you are communicating, that you're well rested and you have time to get ready, and just are there at least 5 minutes early. You don't want to be there super early, but you also don't want to be there on time. I always say this, if you're on time, you're late. So just make sure you're there 5 minutes early. And then if you are doing a virtual interview, make sure your connection is stable. So test your technology prior, testing it, 15 minutes before, making sure it works. A lot of interviews take place through different websites or softwares such as Zoom or Google Meets, or just so making sure that you don't have to download anything new, that everything is what you want it to be. And then again, research the employer and the role. So don't come in just because you want a job. Come in knowing what the job is about and what the job is asking you for. Because if you come in and they ask you, did you read the job, and you say no, it just shows that you don't care about the position and that you're not, it's not important to you. So just make sure that you come prepared with that, and that you also bring examples from your experience that are relevant from what they're asking you. So if you know that the job is for a certain position, make sure that you write down some examples for you to remember that you would want to share during your interview. And then also, again, take notes from the website and prepare questions for them. If they ask you if you have any questions, make sure that you have a question for them. No questions means, again, that there's no interest, that you don't want to learn more. Not everything is on the website. Not everything about the organization is in the website. And so you want to be able to ask a few questions. And then during the interview, make eye contact. If you are in Zoom, even if you are in Zoom, you want to try to make that eye contact or look at the camera, because if you're looking away somewhere else, it doesn't show interest. Or if you're looking down, it just shows that you're not really interested in the interview. And then again, have real life examples to back your knowledge and skills and show that you care. So show that this opportunity is important to you. And then the most important thing, be calm. I know it's very nerve-wracking, and it's okay to ask questions. If you didn't understand a question, it's okay to pause and say, I didn't understand your question. Can you please repeat it? And then if you don't have an answer, try to find an example to kind of go around. Just don't say, oh, I don't have an answer for that, because that's showing that you don't have the experience that they're looking for. So just make sure that you bring some examples and clarify if you are not understanding the question. And then final slide I have for you is what not to do. Some of the things I've seen from our interviews is coming with an unprofessional appearance. I know that every organization has different ways for attire. And what I've seen from students is that they email me and they say, what does your attire look like? And so I thought those emails are important, because I can tell the student, it's very casual. Like, you don't have to come in a tie, a suit and a tie, or, it's casual. Just make sure that you're not bringing anything revealing, or you're not, or it's not super casual, like ripped jeans. Like, you don't want to bring ripped jeans to an interview. And if you're in a video call, making sure that your background is clean and it's not distracting. And if you have your bed behind you, make sure you make your bed. It doesn't show a messy bed. So just make sure that that's something, I've seen it. So it's something very important. And then avoid using a lot of likes or ums. I know it's a safe word. They're safe words for us to go to, because we get nervous and then we start umming and saying a lot of like word. I do that a lot. So just be mindful. I know we can't eliminate them completely, but just be mindful of them. And then your posture and your body language, also keep that in mind, because you don't want to show that you don't care, and your body language shows that you're respectful towards the person interviewing you, that you care by being there and you care about their time. And then just make sure that you're not interrupting. So these sometimes with Zoom, there might be a connection with lagging if you're doing it virtually, and so you might not be able to hear, but just keep that in mind. And then any run-on sentence or just going too long, sometimes you have an allotted time for the interview. So you might have a 30-minute interview and they have a set of questions for you to go through. And if you are elaborating a lot and you only get to 2 questions, they won't get to know you. They won't get to know the rest of you. So just making sure that you're keeping your questions concise, and if they ask you to elaborate, then you can elaborate, but just making sure that you're not going too long. And then again, not answering the questions or not answering them clearly. So just again, be calm, take a breath, and ask them again, what was your question? Can you please repeat your question? Or I didn't understand your question. And they would be gladly to clarify. So that is it with my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say that I really like with coming up to the end of like the interviews, I never really know what to say, but I always go to the culture company of like how the environment is. That's my go-to question. So I just want to say that. But it is I try to always ask a question at the end, but sometimes it don't really know what to say, or if they already answered it while talking. But yeah.
What I try to do is I try to write down a few questions that I don't see on their website and I don't think that they will mention. So definitely the like company culture is one that is like, well, you can't see it in the website and they probably won't talk about it. Another one is like, how do your team members or like your values, but also like how do your team members collaborate? So if they do a lot of group projects, or do they work individually? So like, I would be curious to know like, who am I going to be working with? And so I just write questions that I wouldn't typically know just by looking at their website. And so like seeing, or even asking like, how big is your team? So sometimes you have very small teams and then sometimes you have very large teams. So you want to be able to know who you're going to be working with and if it's going to make you feel comfortable. So if you're used to working with small groups and that's what you're looking for, then you want to ask that question.
Any other questions for Erica? Okay, well, we're going to break out into small groups and actually give you a chance to practice now some of these strategies. So let me just quickly share my screen again. And then we have this document I'll drop in the chat. Let me do that right now so that you can we came up with a bunch of questions for interviews, and then they also have some frameworks and resources for you to go through. Here's some of the questions. So what we're going to do is have just like 2 or 3 students in a chat and just practice some of these questions. So let me really quickly put this in the chat, just a minute. Okay. There it is. Okay, so you should be able to open that so that you have it in your breakout room. So everyone click on that and open it, make sure you have it. And then I'm going to assign some breakout rooms, and we have like the next 15, 20 minutes just to practice answering some of these questions and answers. Yeah, practicing what it sounds like, what you would say. And use this time to your advantage so that you feel really prepared when you schedule your first interview. Okay, so let me go to the breakout rooms. And then we'll come back together, right before 6:30 and just go over some next steps to set up a mock interview with your college coach. Okay, so I will open the rooms. Hello. Looks like everyone's joining back in. Great. How are the breakout sessions? It's so awesome that you got a lot of one-on-one instruction, or how did it go? Any takeaways?
Christian is hired. He
Yay.
rocked his interviewing skills. So yeah, he did great.
That's so great. Gosh, Christian, that should give you some confidence going into your next interview. Yeah. Awesome. Good. Anyone else? Did you get to practice anything that surprised you?
For me, I haven't practiced some of these questions in a while, so it was a real good refresher on seeing like, okay, we need a refresher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also asked Erica how I was doing. I was like, I'm always nervous on how much or little I'm elaborating, but just making sure I put in like examples, then I'm good. But yeah, that's always something in the back of my mind. I'm like, am I talking too little or too much?
Yep. Fair question. Yeah. And that's the best part about doing things like focus groups like this. It's a really safe space to practice and get honest feedback, because you can't ask someone mid-interview, how am I doing? Am I talking too much? So here you can. So I'm glad you got that feedback. Wonderful. Great. Okay. So in the chat, before we end the Zoom call, I want to make sure you get those links from the chat, and I'll email it out. But especially some of the frameworks, they talk about different strategies for interview techniques, like, if there are 3 qualities in yourself that you really want to emphasize, and thinking about examples that you could weave in throughout the interview that demonstrate maybe your quality that you want to talk about is your determination, or your ability to work in a team, and choosing examples that highlight those different qualities about yourself. So when you have some extra time in between midterms, look through some of those frameworks. And there's a first page on there with a bunch of common interview questions. So next steps, we want you to schedule a mock interview with your college coach. I sent an email out to college coaches too, just to practice. The more practice, the better. And then the more confident you feel going into your interview, which is huge. When you can be kind of at peace and confident in yourself and calm, that makes all this practice really worth it. So that's your first action item. I know some of you raised your hand, you've been to your career center, but for the rest of you, go visit, drop in. Maybe you'll meet a friend. See if they have, internship databases, or, maybe sometimes they even have scholarship opportunities, and they do their own mock interviews on campus. It's a great way to meet people and really start building a community around like professional development. Some of you owe me your updated professional resume. I know many of you have been working with your college coach on that. Don't forget to email it to me so that we have that on file. And then now that you have Paige's incredible template, send one outreach email. Challenge yourself to do that. Just so that you all know, this is our last lit workshop of 2021 of the year, because we want to give you the next month, 2 months in school to focus on. I know a lot of you have finals and this is a really busy time. But we're hoping that over winter break, you can use that time to start searching for internships, applying for internships. If any of you are in Santa Barbara over winter break, we would love to get together with you and see you, and just help support you, and see where we can offer support, help you with resume, cover letter, applying for internships. Lean on us, lean on your college coach. But definitely winter break should be a time that you focus on doing that, in addition to reapplying for some of your scholarships. And then we'll resume. Our next lit workshop is going to be all focused on LinkedIn, the details of LinkedIn, how to outreach on LinkedIn, how to search for people, what that looks like, how to find jobs, how to really elevate your LinkedIn presence too, which will be in January. So as we're all in this whole group, I know most of you had a lot of questions answered probably in the small breakout sessions, but does anyone have questions related to what we talked about today or anything about the LIT program? Anything we can help you with before we wrap up? No? Okay, well, you can always email us if so. But thank you to our amazing speakers. Wow, this was again, another valuable LIT workshop. I love having so much expertise on the call. Our mission scholars are really lucky to learn from experts in their fields. So thank you for taking time out of your evening to be with us. And for all our college students, it's so fun to see your faces. I know we're all spread out all over the country really, but I'm excited for your next step in your professional journey. And we hope that all of you can secure really exciting internships next summer, which means starting today. So if you have questions, reach out to us, and then we will follow up with an email with all these links and resources, and also this recording too, if you want to refer to any info back. Okay, well, thanks everyone for being with us, and we will talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Everyone.
This is awesome. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.